With WWE Backlash in the rearview mirror, we now change gears and look forward to the King and Queen of the Ring tournament. Welcome back to the J Area Podcast, everyone. My name is Jose Ramos Jr. Here where we talk about professional wrestling, relevant news, as well as dipping back towards the past. As I mentioned in the opener today, the King of the Ring tournament as well as the Queen of the Ring tournament are now in full effect. The tournament brackets on Raw took effect this past week as well. Looking forward to it, of course. The King and Queen of the Ring tournament. I personally enjoy tournaments. I know this is technically going to be the first official Queen of the Ring tournament, although they did have Queen's Crown a few years ago. I'll speak primarily towards the King of the Ring tournament. For me, it's always been a welcome sight. I can remember the very first King of the Ring that I watched growing up. It was 2006. The finals, funny enough, were held during Judgment Day 2006. It was an event that my family and I were fortunate enough to attend. The finals would see a young Bobby Lashley versus Booker T. Now, at that point in time, I did not realize the longevity and the significance that King Booker would have. So it's a fond memory of mine to see that gimmick and how it originated and how it grew into the story and the character that we know today. In today's video, I do kind of want to just run down the King of the Ring history and also speak on how I'm feeling about this year's tournament bracket as well. I know I mentioned Booker T, but aside from him, I did also enjoy the runs of a William Regal in 2008. I thought it was an excellent portrayal of the character, and it made sense given his gimmick, given his character. And the King of the Ring character itself, the gimmick, really works well for heels. I don't see a lot of baby faces winning King of the Ring. The very few that come to mind, of course, we had Edge in 2001. We also had Bret Hart in 93. And from then on out, there's not really a popular baby face that won the tournament. I think it's an excellent way to elevate talent. If you have a young up-and-coming talent, or not even young and up-and-coming, but someone you want to be able to push to the next level, the King of the Ring should be the tool used to elevate them to that next level. One thing I really enjoyed was in 2002 when Brock Lesnar had won the King of the Ring tournament. They used that tournament as an opportunity to give the winner a WWE Championship match at that year's SummerSlam. If they want to do that, fantastic. If not, I get it. You don't want to have to push this guy to the moon, only for him to potentially lose a title match at the next coming pay-per-view. But in the sense of building talent, this is how you're going to get your guys over. I know a few names that a lot of people have been looking towards. LA Knight, Gunther, those have been the two. I think those are the very popular names that everyone is looking forward to in order of awarding the King of the Ring honor. But that's something that's been lacking for quite some time. You look at the past few winners, the last few. Baron Corbin is the very first that came to mind. They gave him that gimmick and he didn't really do much with it. Of course, the King Corbin gimmick itself wasn't meant to last long. Then you had King Xavier Woods, who won it in 2021. A lot of people, myself included, believe that was basically a consolation prize for Xavier Woods, who was really petitioning for a King of the Ring tournament, as well as a King of the Ring win. Now, to see him alongside his New Day brothers, Kofi Kingston and Big E, all find their own levels of success, I wasn't mad at that. I think it was fantastic. I enjoyed the run they had, as well as the feud he had with Roman Reigns revolving around the crown itself. But as I mentioned, the King of the Ring tournament, it should be used, theoretically, to put over the next star. You look at guys who have won the crown and were able to benefit from it. Guys like a Owen Hart in 1994. Guys like a Steve Austin in 96. Hunter Hearst Helmsley in 97, aka Triple H. As well as Kurt Angle and even Edge, as I previously mentioned. Brock Lesnar, of course, being one of the bigger names and most notable instances where the King of the Ring tournament really benefited them in launching their career. Now, that's not to say that it hasn't, had its negative connotations or its unsuccessful pushes. See guys like Mabel in 95, Billy Gunn in 99, as well as a 2008 Regal or a 2019 Corbin. Now, I would be remiss to not mention that the Queen of the Ring is something different. Of course, I've mentioned there was the Queen's Crown, which in essence was the precursor to what this Queen of the Ring is. But I'm very much intrigued on how they're going to present that. It's something different. It's the first of its kind, again, for the Queen of the Ring title. So to see how we match up with it with the men, both tournaments should be treated at the highest level of importance, especially in this new regime with Triple H running the book. I have all the faith in the world. You just took a look at Monday Night Raw. Quality matchups. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind, Gunther versus Sheamus. The third in its trilogy, and another banger. Of course, I would be remiss to not mention Ricochet's match against Ilya Dragunov. Two stellar matchups, and I am of the mindset that these two should meet. I know in the current bracket they won't meet in the next round, Ilya Dragunov and Gunther. I don't know if you have it in the Raw finals in terms of the bracket. Maybe it's a matchup you want to hold off until later for a big-time PLE event. Gunther versus Ilya Dragunov is a match waiting to happen. It's already happened in NXT UK. And to have it on this large of a scale, WWE, the main roster, this is a main event that could occur at WrestleMania, SummerSlam. It's that much of quality wrestling. I am so excited to see how they're going to move on with Ilya Dragunov. The presentation of him alone against Ricochet was tremendous. And you've seen what they've done with Gunther. If it's going to happen in the tournament, I'm not opposed to it. But at the same time, it is something that's earned the highest level of respect. And I know Triple H has something in mind. And at this point, I said in the past, in other episodes as well as other videos, in Triple H we trust. He hasn't had a moment yet where he's let us down. And I don't anticipate he'll do it with Ilya Dragunov versus Gunther. Of course, staying on topic with the tournaments itself, if I had to give my personal favorites, starting with the Queen of the Ring tournament, two names that really stick out for me personally. I told you, I think a heel, I think a villain benefits the most from these tournaments. And that's really an interesting aspect because I don't think it's going to be two heels. I'm going to go with Shayna Baszler or Tiffany Stratton. Those are the two names that really stick out for me in terms of the way the Triple H regime has been presented. I know Shayna Baszler in recent times hasn't really had that much of a push. We recently saw her on NXT Underground during the Natalya versus Lola Vice matchup there. For some reason, I have a feeling in my gut that she could be a potential winner. I do think Tiffany Stratton is meant for great things. The only question I have is she going to win this tournament or is she going to win Money in the Bank? I think it's going to be one of those two accolades for a Tiffany Stratton. And as I sit here talking to you about these tournaments, I keep preaching and suggesting that a heel should win this tournament. I don't think it's going to be both of them though. Yet in the men's tournament, I'm dead set on Gunther. I don't see how he doesn't emerge as the new King of the Ring. But as we talk about Ilya Dragunov, what better way to catapult him to the next level than by having him win the distinction of King of the Ring? He's already considered to be the czar of NXT. Why not have him become the king of the WWE? I think it has potential. Another name, as I mentioned previously, an LA Knight. So if I had to narrow it down, Gunther, Ilya, and LA Knight, those are probably my front runners for the men. Shayna Baszler and Tiffany Stratton are going to be my front runners for the women. Are they some hot takes? I don't know. It's up for you to decide. What do you guys think? Who are some of your favorites? Please sound off in the comments, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on YouTube. Who do you guys think will emerge victorious in these tournaments? I know leading into the event itself, it's another Saudi show. And there are other matches that will take place, but obviously the name in itself is King and Queen of the Ring. But I, again, would be remiss to not mention those other matchups. We recently found out on Monday Night Raw that Becky Lynch will be defending her WWE Women's World Championship against Liv Morgan. This is a matchup that I'm very much intrigued, especially the way they've been presenting Liv Morgan as of late. Speculation amongst wrestling fans, as well as the way it's presented on TV, would lead you to believe that something's going on between Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio. I'm very intrigued to see how they move forward with this, especially because of the feud between a Liv Morgan and a Rhea Ripley. Liv Morgan has been very public that she is on a revenge tour. Number one, she wanted to take out Rhea Ripley, the woman responsible for injuring her, leaving her on the shelf for so long. Mission accomplished. Her next goal, winning the Women's World Championship by defeating who? Becky Lynch, the woman that stood in her way from the month of March, leading into WrestleMania. But why not grab something along the way? Two birds, one stone. We know how she feels about Rhea Ripley, and the small interactions we've seen with Dominik Mysterio. I don't think that this will eventually lead to something between Dominik and Liv Morgan. It's really leading to the babyface turn of Rhea Ripley. I think we're going to see some type of deception on the side of Dominik Mysterio, whether he's in cahoots or flirting with Liv Morgan, if you will. But that level of disrespect and dishonesty on his part leads me to believe that Rhea Ripley breaks away from Judgment Day. Either that or Dominik's on the way out. But you've seen how Judgment Day has been in the last few weeks, especially given at the Backlash event. When Damian Priest had won his matchup, he had to physically remove JD McDonough and Finn Balor from attacking Jey Uso. There are some kind of dissension in the Judgment Day. There's something going on. I don't know if they're teasing a breakup, but this is a group that has technically been around for 2 years now. Of course, this incarnation of the group is running on about 1 year old. That with the inclusion of a Dominik and a JD McDonough. I don't know. WWE is very long-term, as of right now in the current regime, when it comes to their factions. Look how long it took for the Bloodline to get a facelift. Look how long it took them to start adding a little bit of interest to the Alpha Academy. We just saw Imperium kick out one of their longtime members in Giovanni Vinci. I don't know. Something to keep an eye on, for sure. But the Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch feud, as I get off topic, this matchup means a lot. Because it'll do one of two things. Let's say Becky Lynch retains that title against Liv Morgan. I believe that it hurts the credibility of Liv Morgan. If she loses cleanly to a Becky Lynch, what was the purpose of this whole setup of the Revenge Tour? Of earning the World Heavyweight Championship in the women's division, of course. I feel like it does more harm than good to Liv Morgan. One remedy you could see them applying would be her winning the Money in the Bank, but she's already done that. She won the Money in the Bank briefcase 2 years ago. I do not envision them going back that route, especially when you have capable and deserving of superstars that are also in the wings. Not to say that Liv Morgan's not to say that she's not deserving of it, but it's something we've seen already. We want to see something different. This, I believe, is where you pull the trigger. Becky Lynch wins the women's world title in that battle royal, right? Because everyone's pulling for Liv Morgan. But since then, we've been seeing a more villainous Liv Morgan. If they wanted to, and I could see this happening, Liv Morgan wins the women's world title with interference from Dominik, laying the seeds not only for her to finally win that women's world title, but laying the seeds for a Rhea Ripley return. Now, the only thing we have to decide is, why is Dominik helping Liv Morgan? If you remember originally, Finn Balor and Liv Morgan were a team in the early days of the Judgment Day. I don't think Liv Morgan has ever really forgotten that. Of course, this was before Finn Balor turned heel, aligning with the Judgment Day. That's not to say that Liv Morgan is going to just swiftly take in the spot of the Judgment Day. I think we're going to see a more cerebral, a more conniving Liv Morgan, where, again, it's not about getting with Dominik. It's about breaking the Judgment Day. Who's to say Liv Morgan doesn't outsmart them? That she realizes she can manipulate Dominik Mysterio. In this moment, one could say Dominik is a little lost. Not only is he on the shelf because of an injury, but he's lacking the one individual who he turned to for nearly everything, Rhea Ripley. Dom without mommy could be quite lost. So in order to fill the void, he finds it in Liv Morgan. But again, it's not reciprocated. I think ultimately we reveal that Liv Morgan never had that intention of being Dominik's new mommy. Rather, it's all a part of the plan to disrupt the Judgment Day, piece by piece, breaking them up. Now, if that's accomplished or not, that's yet to be seen. But I think that's how you lay the foundation. I do think Liv Morgan emerges victorious with that women's world title. As of right now, as of this recording, of course. But as we get closer and closer to the event itself, my opinion can change. But that's based on how they want to book the rivalry. Me sitting here today, that is the frame of thought that I have. And speaking of the frame of thought, and in this moment of time, we also look forward to Sami Zayn, who recently announced that he will be defending the Intercontinental Championship in a triple threat match against Chad Gable and Bronson Reed. This should be a banger of a matchup. We've seen the rivalry between Sami Zayn and Chad Gable blossom into what was originally two friends, a friendly competition, if you will, now blossom into that almost of a feud over jealousy, envy. Chad Gable openly berating members of the Alpha Academy for his own failures, for his own insecurities. And in the middle of it all, Bronson Reed, who vowed to win Intercontinental Championship gold regardless of who is the champion. You throw it in all together and you have the makings of a wonderful triple threat match that I can't wait for. You can make a case for any of these three individuals emerging as the Intercontinental Champion. Me personally, I don't think it's time. I still think it's too soon, especially given that the previous title holder had held the championship for 666 days. Yet you want to remove the title from Sami Zayn in a matter of what? Less than 60 days? Again, we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, you could make a case that anyone in this match could win. Bronson Reed sneaking up between the two individuals that have been fighting for this championship. Perhaps Chad Gable finally overcoming the odds and winning that Intercontinental Championship. Or what I think will happen is Sami Zayn retaining. I don't know. But regardless, it's a match that I'm looking forward to very much so. Speaking of looking forward to something very much so, how about the QR codes that WWE has been presenting in recent weeks of WWE television? I know I mentioned it on a previous episode of the podcast, but it's something that I personally look forward to every single time. The most recent one, of course, was during Monday Night Raw in the segment where Drew McIntyre leaves the building and CM Punk enters the building during, in the parking lot. And we get a quick flash on the screen of the QR code. And it's always just a fun time to try to pause the TV just at the right moment so you can grab the picture of the QR code and seeing what the newest hint is in this all. Now, for those who haven't seen the hint or the clue during this QR code, I do highly suggest you don't have to watch the episode of Monday Night Raw and find it and take a picture of it, although that is the fun route. You could, of course, just search it up. I'm sure someone has bound to already uploaded it on the internet. But in this newest one, we're showed kind of like a dark room. And obviously there's the typical hints being thrown out to the audience. Things along the lines, if you forgot about us, or they found us, or he opened up the door, things of that nature. But the one thing that really stood out for me personally in this clue was the ending. There was this quick flash of a person, but you didn't get to see the whole body. What you really saw was their torso, really their clavicle down to maybe their high thigh area. The gear, the clothing, resembled that of Uncle Howdy. I know it's something that's been a very popular theory that it's Uncle Howdy or it's the Wyatt Six, but this was one of the first instances where we got a real good look at who might be behind all these clues, all these disruptions. Maybe it's me just seeing things and it's wishful thinking, but I do think that who we saw in that video at the conclusion of it was Uncle Howdy. The only question is, who is with him? Who has he brought with him? Popular theories include Eric Rowan, Nikki Cross, Dexter Loomis, Joe Gacy as well. Some people have said Alexa Bliss. I don't know. Any form and variation of that, I'm all in. I'm interested. I've always find these QR codes very fun, very amusing, especially that with the White Rabbit and Bray Wyatt during his return a couple years ago. But to see another kind of dark and mysterious gimmick, that of an Uncle Howdy in the lines of a Bray Wyatt or The Undertaker, anytime we have those kind of characters, I'm always so intrigued. It's something that I look forward to. I like when wrestling gets a little bit goofy and we are introduced to these gimmicks that are larger than life, for sure. My only question, concern, I don't know what you want to call it, is where do we go? Because it's all fun and games when you have it being presented to the audience for the first time and you're revealing to them that, hey, this is a possibility. But once they return, once they are available on WWE television, what's the move? Who are they going to feud with? What's their intention? Why are they here? In theory, the execution has been perfect. Now it's just a matter of when are we going to pull the trigger and when are we going to unleash them on the WWE roster? And what's their intent? Do we see Uncle Howdy as currently presented as a main eventer? Are we going to get hints of Bo Dallas? Or some fans clamoring for him to go by Bo Wyatt? There are many avenues they can still take. And I like that they're taking the approach of a slow burn. They're not really jumping the gun on anything. They're taking their time. They're building anticipation. You want the crowd to be asking for more. You never want to give them too much or more than what they're asking for. You always want to leave them wanting more. And that's what we have to be patient, especially during this regime. As long as you remain patient and you keep up with the product, all will be addressed. And therefore the audience will be rewarded for that long-term investment. But to see what they're doing with this current gimmick and the excitement levels that have been building and building ever since the first number of hints have been revealed around the time of WrestleMania 40. Very intrigued, as I mentioned. Very intrigued because I think, as I think other people are of the mindset of, King of the Ring might be where they introduce them. I sit here and there are times where I think, okay, maybe. I don't know though. I genuinely don't know because I think it's all about the audience. Is this something that they would present in front of a Saudi crowd? Now, that's nothing to disparage about the Saudis. But when was the last time we had a huge event and a big reveal of this nature? Especially in a PLE of this nature. I don't know. Can't come to mind. I think in this instance, especially because it's pertaining the memory of a Bray Wyatt, they want to handle this delicately. They want to make sure everything goes according to plan in a respectful and yet spectacular fashion. I look forward to what they do with the gimmick, and it's all speculation at this point. Of course, the purpose of this podcast really is to share my thoughts and opinions regarding the product itself. So if you guys have any points or any comments, concerns regarding the presentation of that gimmick or anything that I've spoken about to this point, please sound off. You guys can find me at JustJose_3 on all social media sites, as well as in the comments down below. And as we prepare for the Friday night bracket, they've already revealed that. I've told you who my favorite coming out of SmackDown was, but who are your guys' favorites? I know I look forward to every single J Area podcast episode because it gives me that opportunity to voice my opinions, voice my thoughts, especially on the ongoing product that we've been seeing these last few months. And as I've been talking now, the goal, of course, is to reach 1,000 subscribers. And if you stick long enough for these videos, you always hear me express my gratitude and my appreciation for the growing numbers that we've seen, especially in the last month and a half. We are just a few subscribers away from 600 subscriptions. As we continue to build towards 1,000, you guys are doing fantastic, and I can't wait to continue bringing you the content that we're bringing you, as well as elevating its level of quality, as well as introducing new topics. I know we've been producing a little bit more reaction videos, some side open lecture videos, as well as these J Area podcasts. I do enjoy the YouTube shorts that have been doing primarily well for the most part. If there's anything you guys want me to talk about or introduce, especially on the channel, please sound off. Please sound off. Go ahead and let me know what you guys are interested in, because ultimately this is an open forum. This is an area where we can talk about anything, primarily pro wrestling, but also sports. You guys have seen on the YouTube channel, especially in the archives of this podcast. I've talked about movies. I've talked about sports. Primarily, though, this is going to be pro wrestling. I've found the most success in producing content revolving around it. It gives me a great sense of fulfillment and joy in doing so, especially because it's had such a positive and powerful impact in my life. And I want to be able to present that to all those that are keeping up with it, that have supported it, and that continue to support it since its inception. With that being said, of course, I want to thank you guys for joining me on the J Area Podcast. This is a simple, short J Area Podcast, but nonetheless, another opportunity to voice my thoughts on the product, as well as discuss pro wrestling with all of you. Of course, you can go in the archives and find previous episodes. You can find the links on YouTube and Spotify, wherever you listen to the podcast. With that being said, my name is Jose Ramos Jr., and I thank you again for joining us on today's episode.